Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hey everyone, ready for some serious political drama? We're heading down to Argentina today.
Oh yeah.
Where President Javier Milei just made a
big move.
Huge power move by appointing 2 new Supreme Court justices. But here's the thing, he did it by decree, completely bypassing Congress.
It's definitely a controversial move.
Yeah.
Some are calling it like a straight-up power grab.
Right.
While others are saying, no, it's totally within his constitutional rights.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I find really interesting is how this could actually reshape Argentina's political landscape.
Oh, for sure.
For years to come.
Okay, so maybe you're listening to this and thinking, why should I care about legal drama happening halfway across the world? But this isn't just about Argentina.
Right.
It really touches on some universal questions.
For sure.
About, like, how much power one person should have.
I guess so.
This balance between different branches of government.
Yes.
What happens when those legal processes get all tangled up with political agendas?
It's a slippery slope. Like, imagine if in any country, the president could just appoint whoever they wanted to the highest court, completely bypassing any checks and balances. I mean, that raises serious concerns about the independence of the judiciary and whether it can truly hold those in power.
Accountable.
Accountable, exactly.
Okay, so let's break down exactly what happened here.
Okay.
So we know the Supreme Court had 2 vacancies that opened up after some justices left in 2024.
Back in 2024, yeah.
And then Milei nominated judges Manuel García-Mansilla and Ariel Lijo back in March to fill those spots.
Now, to be fair, Milei's office insists that they followed all the proper procedures.
Oh, really?
Including holding those public hearings in August. But the Senate, which is responsible for confirming those appointments, basically stalled.
Oh, so classic political gridlock.
Classic.
Yeah, so Milei's government is claiming that the opposition was deliberately blocking his picks.
Right.
And that's his justification for issuing this very controversial decree.
Yep.
He's pointing to a part of the Argentine Constitution that supposedly allows for this kind of appointment when the Senate is inactive.
Interesting.
He's calling it provisional until December when the legislative period ends.
Okay, but here's where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
The Constitution also gives the president the power to nominate justices.
Right.
So is he genuinely using the powers granted to him? Or is this like a clever manipulation of the system?
It's such a gray area.
Totally.
And we know Argentina has a history of strong-willed presidents pushing the limits of their authority.
Absolutely.
So this move definitely echoes some of those past power struggles.
For sure. For sure.
And of course, not everyone is buying his explanation.
Of course not.
You have some politicians backing Milei. But prominent critics like Elisa Carrillo are calling this a horror, especially questioning the appointment of Lijo due to past corruption allegations against him.
Yeah, and to add fuel to the fire, you have constitutional lawyer Andres Gil Romero, who's actually predicting that the Senate will just shoot down these appointments.
Wow.
As soon as they're back in session. He's calling the whole process straight up unconstitutional.
Okay, so it's like a showdown brewing here.
It's shaping up to be a major showdown between the executive and the legislative branches.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like this is completely unprecedented, right? Former President Mauricio Macri tried something very similar back in 2015.
He did.
Attempting to appoint Supreme Court justices by decree.
Yeah.
But ultimately backed down after facing a ton of backlash.
He did.
What's interesting, though, is that he did eventually get his nominees through the Senate.
He did.
But only after going through the proper channels.
Right. So it makes you wonder, why didn't Milei just take that route?
I know, right? Like, what's going on here?
Was this just like a calculated power play?
Yeah.
A sign of impatience?
Yeah.
Or maybe a little bit of both?
It really raises questions about his strategy and whether this very bold move will ultimately backfire.
For sure. Huge questions.
So let's actually talk about the 2 judges at the heart of all of this.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So first up, we have Ariel Lijo, who is a federal judge who is no stranger to Argentina's most politically charged cases.
You've been around the block.
He's overseen investigations into the MIA bombing, which was a major terrorist attack.
Right.
And even corruption cases involving some very powerful figures.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is that he's known to be pretty close to current Supreme Court Justice Ricardo Lorenzetti.
Oh, really?
So if Lijo's appointed, this could create a pretty powerful alliance within the court.
Wow.
And then you have to think about how his history of handling these politically sensitive cases will play out in this new role.
It's going to be very interesting.
Very.
And then we have Manuel Jose García-Mansilla.
Okay.
He is a constitutional scholar and the dean of the Universidad Austral, which happens to be the same university.
It is, yeah.
Attended by the current vice president of the Supreme Court.
What are the chances?
I know, right? Small world.
Small world.
But what's really interesting about García-Mansilla is that he's on record supporting Macri's controversial decree appointments back in 2015.
Oh, wow.
And he's also criticized attempts to impeach sitting justices.
So his appointment could actually signal a pretty significant shift in the court's ideological balance.
Okay, so we have two very different judges here.
Yeah.
Both with some very impressive credentials.
They do.
But also, carrying some baggage.
A little bit of baggage.
So what's your take on their potential impact if they actually do end up on the Supreme Court?
Well, you have to consider their backgrounds, right? And their judicial philosophies. Lijo is known for this really meticulous approach. And his willingness to go after powerful figures.
Right.
But some people criticize him for moving too slowly on complex cases, especially those involving high-level corruption.
Right.
They question whether he really has the decisiveness to tackle these really tough issues.
Oh, interesting.
Especially given the immense pressure that comes with these high-profile cases. Now, García-Mansilla, on the other hand, he's a self-described originalist. Which means he favors a more conservative legal approach.
Gotcha.
Emphasizing the Constitution's original meaning over, evolving societal norms.
It's almost like Milei chose two people.
It is, right.
Who represent opposite ends of the spectrum.
Totally.
One known for his actions and the other for his words.
It's fascinating.
But what's the strategy there?
Right.
Is this like a way to appease both sides of the political aisle? Or is it just going to be a recipe for gridlock within the court itself?
It really underscores how much is riding on this gamble.
Yeah.
This isn't just about two appointments.
Right.
It's about the future direction of the Supreme Court, its role in Argentine society, and the potential ripple effects on the country's political and economic landscape.
All right, so we've set the stage, introduced all the players.
We did.
Laid out the stakes.
Yeah.
But the real drama is just beginning.
For sure.
What happens next is really anyone's guess.
Anyone's guess.
Okay, so we've got this showdown brewing.
Oh, yeah.
Miley's made his move, but the Senate ultimately gets the final say.
Right.
What happens if they come back from their break and just reject his picks?
Oh, it would be a huge blow to Miley's authority.
Really?
I mean, think about it. He made this bold move, invoked the Constitution.
Right.
And then the Senate basically says, nope, we're not buying it. It could really embolden the opposition, making them more likely to challenge his agenda.
Oh, wow.
And it could even potentially lead to a constitutional crisis.
So it's like a high-stakes poker game.
It is.
Miley went all in with this decree, and now we're all just waiting to see what he's holding.
Exactly.
Is it a winning hand, or is he about to lose big?
And we can't forget about the impact on the Supreme Court itself.
Right.
These vacancies have been open for a while now, and this whole drama could just delay the process even further.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine the backlog of cases just piling up while this political battle rages on.
It's a mess.
It undermines the court's ability to function effectively. And it just erodes public trust in the judicial system.
And we can't ignore the economic angle here either, right?
Well, absolutely not.
You mentioned earlier that this kind of uncertainty is never good for business.
It's not, no.
So how could this crisis specifically impact Argentina's economy?
Well, think about it this way. Argentina is already dealing with a weakening currency.
The peso.
The peso, exactly.
Okay.
This crisis just adds fuel to the fire.
Okay.
Investors get really skittish.
Yeah.
They see political instability, potential legal battles, and they just pull their money out.
Oh, wow.
That's capital flight. And it can send the peso into a free fall.
So it's like a domino effect.
It is.
Political instability leads to economic uncertainty.
Right.
The peso weakens.
Yes.
Imports become more expensive.
And suddenly, everyday Argentines are feeling the pinch.
Exactly.
It seems like the stakes are incredibly high here.
They are.
On multiple fronts.
Yeah, this isn't just about, like, legal technicalities or political maneuvering.
Right.
It has real consequences for real people.
It's a good reminder that politics isn't just some abstract game.
It's not, no.
Played by elites, you know?
Yeah.
It has a very real impact on people's lives.
And the media plays a huge role in all of this too, right?
Oh, for sure.
They're shaping the narrative, framing the debate, influencing how people actually perceive this whole situation.
So are they presenting a balanced view?
Right. Are they highlighting the voices of everyday Argentines? Or are they just amplifying the political noise?
It's, like you said before, it's a battle of narratives.
It is, yeah.
Is Milei a strong leader who's taking decisive action? Or is he an authoritarian who's overstepping his bounds?
Right.
Are his opponents protecting the Constitution?
Or are they just playing political games?
It's all about perception.
The way the media portrays this is going to influence how the public...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Perceives it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which can ultimately sway the outcome.
And let's not forget the historical context here either.
Right.
Argentina has a history of strong presidents, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes pushing the limits of their power.
Yeah.
And a judiciary that's often caught in the middle. This situation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a larger struggle over the balance of power that's been going on for decades.
So we've got this really fascinating intersection here.
We do.
Of law, politics, economics, media, and history.
Yeah.
All converging in this one pivotal moment.
Makes you wonder,
yeah,
if Milei loses this battle, can he actually recover?
Right.
Can his presidency survive such a major setback?
That's a good question.
It depends on how he responds, right?
Yeah.
Does he double down, become even more confrontational, or does he pivot?
Right.
Try to build bridges with the opposition.
Yeah.
And show that he's willing to compromise.
So his next move is really going to be crucial.
It is, yeah.
In determining whether this becomes like a defining moment of his presidency.
Right.
Or just a bump in the road.
Exactly.
We've talked about the potential downsides of this situation, the economic risks, the political fallout. Yeah.
Are there any potential upsides here?
Oh, that's interesting.
Could this crisis actually lead to something positive?
You know what they say? Sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Right. Maybe this crisis is the catalyst for some much-needed reforms.
Okay.
Perhaps it forces Argentina to address some of those underlying issues that have been holding it back.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about the judiciary.
Okay.
Maybe this prompts a deeper conversation about its role, its independence, and how to ensure that it's truly serving the people.
Yeah.
Maybe it leads to reforms that strengthen checks and balances, making sure that no future president can pull a move like this again.
So potentially like a painful process, but ultimately beneficial.
Yeah.
A sort of growing pains.
I like that.
For Argentina's democracy.
Exactly. Sometimes a good shakeup can be what's needed.
Right.
To force a system to evolve and adapt.
Yeah.
Of course, there's no guarantee that'll happen.
Right.
But it's definitely a possibility worth considering.
We've talked a lot about the big picture stuff.
We have.
The institutions, the political players.
Yeah.
But what about the average person in Argentina?
Right.
What are they thinking? How are they feeling about all of this?
Well, you have to imagine there's a lot of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
The economy's already struggling.
Right.
And this crisis just adds another layer of uncertainty.
Yeah.
People are probably wondering, like, how will this affect my job, my savings, my ability to put food on the table?
And beyond just those economic worries, there's the political dimension, too.
Oh, totally.
Milei was elected on a promise of change. To shake things up.
He was.
Are people still supportive of his methods, even if they agree with his goals?
Right. And you also have to consider the emotional impact, right?
Oh, for sure.
People are probably feeling a whole range of emotions. Anger, frustration, fear.
Yeah.
Even hope.
It's a lot.
They're likely debating this at home with their families, with their friends, just trying to make sense of what's happening and what it means for their future.
It's a reminder that even in a country that feels as geographically distant as Argentina, the issues they're facing resonate with people all over the world.
For sure.
This struggle for a functioning democracy, this desire for a stable economy, the search for leaders who will actually represent the people's interests.
These are all universal themes.
Yeah, and it highlights how important it is to stay informed.
Absolutely.
To understand how these complex systems work and how they impact our lives.
Whether you're in Argentina or anywhere else in the world, the decisions made by those in power have this ripple effect that reaches far beyond the halls of government.
So much to process here.
I know, right?
We've gone from Supreme Court appointments to economic anxieties to the hopes and fears of everyday Argentines.
It's a lot.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, though, let's zoom back in on the two judges at the center of this whole controversy. We've talked about their backgrounds and their potential impact. But what can their past decisions actually tell us about their judicial philosophies and how they might rule on these critical issues if their appointments are actually upheld? Okay, so we've got these two judges.
We do.
Lijo and García-Mansilla. Each with their own histories and their potential biases.
For sure.
So let's start with Lijo.
Okay.
He's handled some of Argentina's most politically sensitive cases. But what do his past rulings actually tell us?
Well, one thing that really stands out is his willingness to go after powerful figures. Regardless of their political affiliation.
Interesting.
You know, he's presided over corruption cases involving both Peronists and non-Peronists, which are like the two major political factions in Argentina.
Right.
This suggests at least some level of independence and a real commitment to applying the law impartially.
So he's not afraid to ruffle some feathers.
No, not at all.
But does that automatically make him a fair and impartial judge?
Right. Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people argue that he's been too cautious, too slow to move forward on these complex cases, particularly the ones involving high-level corruption.
Right.
They question whether he really has the decisiveness to tackle these tough issues.
Gotcha.
Especially given the immense pressure that comes with these really high-profile cases.
It's like he's trying to be so careful.
Yeah.
So meticulous that it almost hinders his effectiveness.
Almost like he's overthinking it.
Right, and then there's the question of his connection to Justice Lorenzetti.
Yeah, if they both end up on the Supreme Court, could that create a powerful alliance?
Right.
And how would that impact the court's decisions?
A lot of unknowns there.
A lot of unknowns.
Okay, so let's move on to García-Mansilla.
All right.
He's a bit more of an unknown quantity, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he is.
When it comes to his judicial experience?
I mean, he's primarily known for his academic work, right?
Right.
And his very outspoken views on constitutional matters.
Yeah.
He's a self-described originalist.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't legal scholars, what does that mean?
Basically, it means that he believes in interpreting the Constitution according to its original meaning. Like as it was understood when it was actually written.
So a more conservative approach.
Yeah, you could say that.
Sticking to the letter of the law.
Exactly.
How could that potentially impact his rulings?
On more contemporary issues.
Well, it suggests that he might be less inclined to consider, evolving societal norms or values when he's interpreting the Constitution.
Oh, interesting.
This could have some pretty significant implications for a whole range of issues.
Like what?
From social rights to economic regulations.
It's a big deal.
It is.
And it's worth noting, too, that this whole idea of originalism, it's been gaining a lot of traction among conservative legal scholars in recent years.
Especially in the United States.
Yeah, so this could really signal a shift.
It could.
In Argentina's legal landscape.
Yeah.
If García-Mansilla's appointment is actually upheld.
And remember, he's also expressed some pretty strong views.
He has.
On the separation of powers. Arguing for a more limited role for the judiciary. And greater deference to the elected branches of government.
Interesting. So it makes you wonder how he would actually rule on cases
that involve the scope of executive power.
Especially given all the controversy surrounding his own appointment.
It's almost like Milei has chosen two judges.
It is.
With very different approaches.
Totally different.
Almost like he's hedging his bets.
It seems that way.
But could that create more problems than it solves?
Yeah.
Could it lead to more gridlock within the court itself?
That's true.
With these two justices constantly clashing on these fundamental issues?
It's definitely a possibility.
It just adds another layer of complexity to this already volatile situation.
We've got this potential clash of personalities and judicial philosophies all playing out against this backdrop of political turmoil and economic uncertainty.
This deep dive has been a wild ride.
It has.
We started with what seemed like a pretty straightforward story about Supreme Court appointments. Yeah. But it's really spiraled into this complex web of political maneuvering, economic anxieties, and the potential for a major power shift in Argentina.
And it really highlights just how interconnected all of these systems are.
It does.
What happens in the political realm has a ripple effect on the economy, the judiciary, the media, and ultimately the lives of everyday people.
Right. It's a reminder that we can't view these events in isolation.
No, we can't.
We have to really understand the broader context to truly grasp the significance of what's happening.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's the one question you'd like to leave our listeners pondering today?
That's a good one. Well, I think I'd ask, if the Senate rejects Milei's appointments, what does that actually say about the future of his presidency?
Ooh, good question.
Will he even be able to recover from such a significant setback?
Right.
Or will this just completely cripple his ability to enact his agenda? And then, what does all of this mean for Argentina as a whole?
Right.
Could this plunge the country into even deeper political instability?
Oh, wow.
Or could this actually be the catalyst for a much-needed course correction?
So much to think about.
I know, it's heavy stuff.
It really seems like Argentina is at a crossroads here.
It does.
The decisions that are made in these coming weeks and months, they're going to have a profound impact.
It will.
On the country's future.
For sure.
So much is at stake here.
It really is.
And the world is definitely watching closely to see what path Argentina ultimately chooses.
It's a reminder that the fight for democracy and the rule of law, it's an ongoing process.
It is.
One that demands vigilance and active participation.
From all of us.
Absolutely.
No matter where we are in the world.
Well said.
Well, this has been such a fascinating discussion.
It has been.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning.
And keep forming your own conclusions.
This story is far from over.
It's not over yet.
And we'll be here to guide you through all the twists and turns as they unfold.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.